Yeah, HMR here. Oh, in this video, I wanted to talk about something that Vatican put out, I guess 4 hours ago? Yeah. Entitled, How Borderlines See You as the Intimate Partner, right? Well, I went through his entire video, and I was thoroughly disgusted, to tell you the truth. So, here's the thing. That was a misogynistic, because he's a malignant narcissist psychopath. Malignant narcissist males have a lot of misogyny and hatred toward women, just as female malignant narcissists have misandry and hatred toward men. So in this video, he talks about, well, I guess he's essentially trying to define for you how people with BPD really see you. There are some accuracies in his video. There are not really up for me to judge anyways, right? But there are some accuracies in his video, and then there are some real inaccuracies in his video. And then the way he presents it, he's like making statements that would suggest that the borderline is what the borderline would say, as if the borderline would have that much conscious awareness of many aspects of what happens in these relationships. And he also makes it sound like, obviously makes everything sound like it's the be all to end all. It's absolutely right. Everybody else is a nut. I get that. But yeah, I'm just trying to think. There's parts in there where he says that, like, the problem, okay, the flaw in the ointment of backing on BPD to begin with. So I don't care what he says about narcissism and narcissists, but is the fact that he says the borderline. And then he prefaces how and why he's just going to use the pronoun she, because he's a misogynist, right? A malignant narcissist, psychopathic, they are misogynist. And so it's she this, she that, she the other thing. And I've been doing that a lot here too, because, a lot of men looking for a lot of help with what's happened to them with borderline women. But let's not forget the women that are with borderline men. Let's not forget other, same-sex relationships where men are with borderline men or women are with borderline women. And my point here is that I saw Vaknin's presentation of that video, How Do Borderlines See You, because, his English isn't great, but How Do Borderlines See You, the intimate partner. Well, he went into all this flowery language, which essentially, best way I can see it, was a histrionic presentation, a hyperbolic presentation, starting off that all women are basically BPD, and that and who is he anyways, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just saying, I'm not comparing, I don't pretend to be a professor, I don't pretend to be, or think of myself as a leading pioneer or clinician in any area, but he thinks these things of himself. I don't know what's true or not true, but I know he's not a leading pioneer clinician in the area of borderline personality disorder. So he says that he just, what he did? He did a lot of lumping of stuff together. But so first of all, he says that he wants to suggest, and I don't know, like he's on some governing board of the DSM and the APA or whatever, that he wants to interject his theory or whatever, which we don't need, thank you, that women with BPD, yeah, they're the borderlines, and males, oh, I could just kill this phone, literally. And males with BPD he likes to think of them as not the same kind of borderline as females, because he says they should be called the covert borderline. This is just seeking further to pathologize with no authority to even put these labels in place, other than so many of you out there, the odd person who might come by here and watch a video, thank you very much, but so many people are just drawn to him like moths to flames. Why? Well, I would say probably because it's people with codependency who can't get enough about the borderline and hearing them trashed in a way in which Vaknin describes them. So some of his information in that video was correct, but it was little pieces here and there. And the rest of it, he's speaking as if borderline personality itself could talk, or as if this is what the female with borderline would say. And he goes on and on and on about, when they dissociate, and there's 3 states of dissociation, they're going to have at least 2. And then erroneously, what does that mean? And, amnesia, depersonalization, or derealization. And you know what? I'm sitting here ready to share, but not feeling like it right now, ladies and gentlemen. Ready to share with you from the inside out the experience of having many of these things in my past. Experiencing depersonalization and derealization, which I can tell you in my case, did not cause me to act out, did not cause me to get aggressive, did not cause me to yell or scream or rage at anybody. And it happened to me once when I was sitting in one of my first psychology classes in university, and something that the professor was talking about and putting on the board triggered me, and I didn't even know what that was back then. I'm 17, 18 years old. And the next thing I know, I'm having this experience that I would later learn was depersonalization, derealization, a form of dissociation within BPD. I never had any secondary psychopathy or any of this nonsense. And so when I experienced that, as Vaknin describes all this, like erroneously, like people are feeling like they're out of their body, or when borderlines are triggered to dissociation or age regression or derealization or depersonalization, which is, the meat of the dissociative experience. When they're triggered there, they become secondary psychopaths. Not necessarily, and that's not proven yet at all. And then he talks about it's a self-state of secondary psychopathy, not proven. If you want to believe this floats your boat and helps you not heal your codependency and not look at yourself, okay. But I don't get it, and no, I'm not jealous or envious of his views or anybody with bigger views or platforms. It's the misinformation it's a pet peeve of mine. So when I had depersonalization, I'll give you one example, depersonalization and derealization, which now they've separated out, by the way. It's Axis 1 dissociative disorders, where borderline personalities where it really ought to be. Just saying. So depersonalization, derealization disorder is now a disorder of dissociation on Axis 1. But when I had BPD, it certainly was like seemingly just a component of that, as I would go on to find out about my experience. It didn't happen to me that much. I had some dissociation. If you have a flashback to the kind of abuse I had, you're going to get dissociated. But the thing is, that wasn't decompensating, which is what he goes on to talk about and throw in. And it's like he's got this garbage, all kind of histrionic, hyperbolic presentation. It doesn't even hang together if you really think about it. But people go over there and soak it in, and it's beyond me why. Like, I give up. I'm not even going to try. I know why, but I'm not going to say more or try to figure it out more, because it's pretty simple, actually. So, anyway, he puts on a performance. He puts on a show. He self-aggrandizes himself. It's not about him being accurate with information. And maybe sometimes he is. And he was a little bit in that video, but not that much. And I thought everything else that he went histrionically, hyperbolically into, and then putting a lot, if you will, just like putting a lot into one video. A lot of it was erroneous, not applicable, exaggerated, hyperbolic, histrionic. So, like that, every time a borderline is triggered, they're going to be having the 3 states of dissociation, or at least 2 of the 3. That's not necessarily true either. Can't say that about all people with BPD. They're not all the same. And by the way, there should be no big divide between men with BPD and women with BPD. As he said, he wants to coin the phrase. Well, good for him, because who the hell is he? That's my question for you. He's a malignant narcissist psychopath with, I guess, an IQ that he likes to brandy around and kind of not give you the best information with at times, especially on BPD, would be my contention. But anyway, I'm just a little peon sitting down here on a small channel, so whatever, I'm fine with that. Although I am getting frustrated to the point of I think I just might leave this channel, because there's no point in trying to talk back, even if I'm doing my own video, not talking back about what some other video someone else did. But as I watch who goes and watches where, and I don't expect anybody to just watch me or anything, no, don't have a problem with that. But as I do see names popping up on channels with rampant misinformation, back into a degree, but other channels, smaller channels, I'm like, if you're over here and you're commenting on my videos, whether you're just sharing your experience or whatever, because there's nothing personal here, I get it, you know. I've tried to make this a personable experience for people because that's who I am and that's what I do. Because I work with clients and I have compassion and empathy. And I want to, you know, not lump all borderlines together. And then say, like Vaknin says, the male borderline it should be a narcissist because they're more narcissistic. No, he's just projecting. I don't know what he's doing, but he's wrong. Ooh, could the mighty Vaknin ever be incorrect? Well, yeah, lots. And so the other thing is, and what do I care about it for? Only because it's misinformation. And then other YouTubers who don't know what they're talking about, or very little of what they're talking about, they glom onto what he says. And then they don't necessarily have the intellect to put that in the context, even though it's erroneous and flawed, where Vaknin's coming from often, especially on BPD with these things. Not entirely, but lots of it. Then they start copying him and emulating him and taking from his content because he couldn't care less if you put his video on your channel. You know what I'm saying? More supply for him. So anyway, and then these other YouTubers follow suit and start using language like secondary psychopathy and BPD, which it's still unsettled, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not willing to go there because I don't see it. I see it in a subset of people, be they male or female with BPD. Not that I see that it's secondary psychopathy, but I see that more severe presentation where I believe they should be assessed as psychopathic and not put in the borderline category. So, yeah. Anyway, so a lot of these other YouTubers, or there's a number of them, I don't know if I know all of them, but I know of some of them, and they will say things like, borderline gets triggered, and this is kind of what Vaknin said today in that video. Borderline gets triggered, of course the woman, maybe not the man, just the woman with BPD. It's not true. And it's only female and not male. But if a borderline gets triggered to dysregulated emotion, guess what's happening? They're getting triggered to dysregulated emotion. It doesn't mean they're age regressing, but there can be some age regression at times, or people with BPD more severely, more often. And then there's what that really means. Sorry, I have an itchy nose. And then there's the reality that when people, hey, buddy, Toby, no. When people with BPD dissociate to get triggered to dysregulated emotion, it doesn't mean that they're decompensating and that they enter this, quote, psychopathic self-state or self-state of secondary psychopathy. It has not been proven. I think what we've seen in some criminal cases recently is that the hardened people that have done horrific crimes have been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. That, to me, doesn't have any efficacy or sanity to it either. But what are they doing? They're fusing together. There's a couple of other traits, but primarily it's around this trait of impulsivity in people with BPD, which is very accurate, and that there's impulsivity in psychopaths. Now, there's another trait or two they pick on, but they're not the same things. So there's that, and that's contentious, and I understand some people want the drama of that's what's happening to them because you want to vilify them. You're really hurt. You've had enough. I think a lot of people really get super interested in people who are giving you all this misinformation. In fact, I've been studying this now for a while and watching the trends, and I know. So anyway, leaves my channel pretty barren, pretty empty, pretty unimportant because I'm going to keep it real. And it's a decision I made, and it is who I am, and it's all I can do. So I may be leaving the channel soon, and that's not a threat. You're not supposed to give a crap. You don't have to say anything back to that. Matter of fact, never mind. This channel often on lots of videos gets lots of comments, but on recent videos, etc., it's like nobody gives a crap. So what am I here for? That's all I'm beginning to see. And why is that? Well, that could be for a lot of reasons, right? And maybe since I got fatter, you think I got stupider. Bottom line is, the rampant misinformation out there is not going to help you at all to heal. So whatever framework you prefer, whatever get you all excited about, yeah, that borderline was like even more horrible than I thought. Well, good for you. To what end? How's it going to help you? So, to the question, how does the borderline see you when you're their partner? They don't. It's a really simple answer. You don't have to be all hyperbolic, histrionic, like back and throw all this other stuff out there that does not hang together. And by the way, I want to make this point. Borderlines do not, upon being triggered to dysregulated emotion, first of all, they don't become secondary psychopaths in a self state. Not proven. Many clinicians out there, never mind Backman, he's not a clinician. Many of them out there are, I know somebody personally who's really heavy into this research. And I'm going to be interested in seeing this colleague and friend of mine's research when it's finally released to the public, because I've been told a little bit about it, but I can't say anything, a lot about it. It just may come to an understanding of what self-states might actually be in BPD, if in fact they are. But I don't know that yet, and there's no proof. And the study, I'm going to say one more time, that points at secondary psychopathy and BPD. I mean, there's lots of studies, but lots of them are saying, lots of studies are concluding borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder are two separate, distinct disorders. So Backman's not reading you those studies, is he? And no other YouTuber with the misinformation who just parrots Vaknin and their limited intellectual capacity to do so knows what they're talking about. But it sounds good, and it gets some clicks and views. It really does. And then I sit here with a channel that's like, on some videos, it's like, yeah, why did I bother? It really is. And that's okay. I don't feel bad about it or whatever. I'm just going to make decisions based on it. Because the trend of people going to the clickbait titles, going to the YouTubers with the rampant information, most of whom are men, by the way. So men, what are you doing to yourself, selling yourself short? But women are going over there too. It's your choice. You have every right to watch whoever you want, listen to whomever you want. But I would still make the case, it's not that I just think you should watch me. No. But when you go to these other places, I hope you're being discerning. Because if you're not, I saw a commenter on this channel recently who commented on another person's channel. They've just, and I don't want to start any trouble with that person again. God knows they were a pain in my butt. And I still see that they're taking some of my information. So they just came back to their channel and they have a brand new book out. And goody, So, but I saw a commenter and you might wonder, why do I care about this? Well, there's a reason, but I can't control what you people do. I don't seek to at all. But so a commenter on this channel, then when that YouTuber returned to their BPD channel, they're over there commenting too, which is not wholly like, who cares, right? But it's what I see in that. And it's people who don't have the discernment. A lot of you are in a lot of pain. You're not thinking straight. When you go from information, not just my information, there's some other people out there with really good information. And there's not a lot of them on YouTube, but there are some of them. And then when some of the professionals take it on, the known professionals, not back then, they do a really good job. And the times when they will talk about it, they don't talk about it all the time, BPD. So I'm really just, getting to the point where I have podcasts that are taking off, podcasts that I don't have to come back and talk about this crap on. I'm not getting comments, or if I am, I'm not looking wherever podcasts are curated. And I'm thinking of turning the comments off here again, because really, what is the efficacy of leaving them on? So I've seen several people that comment on this channel. Oh, once in a blue moon, I guess, is how you do it, right? That's your own business. And then, but you're busy commenting on Backman's channel or Grannon's channel or these other smaller YouTubers who don't know what they're talking about. I mean, part of their message is good. They talk about no contact and such. But, I mean, there's a YouTuber out there that brutalizes his audience and in comments. And it's do it his way or the highway. And he has every right to do that. So, if he hears about this, or you know who I'm talking about, I'm not trying to, I have no problem with him doing what he does on his YouTube channel, except that what is difficult for me to look at is how many people will listen to me, and I'm not here to say I'm the be-all to end-all, but I am accurate with my information. And then they go over to a channel like that and take all that misinformation in, then what's the purpose of coming back over here? Because if you're on the trajectory that you want to fool yourself, if you're on the trajectory that you just want to hear what you want to hear, not what you need to hear, this channel probably isn't for you. So anyway, Vaknin was talking about when a borderline gets triggered, a female only, of course, when a female borderline gets triggered to emotional dysregulation, that she's automatically going to have 2 of the 3, if not 3, of the dissociative states. That's not necessarily true at all. And you can't say that about all people with BPD, blanket statement. I mean, he does, but it's not accurate. It's flawed right there. And then he also said that when a female borderline is triggered to emotional dysregulation, or triggered, or whatever he said, then they go to this decompensation. No, they don't. And then he claims that the decompensation in BPD, which isn't even happening for these people, when they're triggered or when they split you to devaluation, and he claims that then they leave or they monkey branch or cheat because they're decompensating, which means all defenses aren't working anymore, which is not the case with people. People with BPD or even a narcissist can get into a decompensation type of situation. But when that happens, they have to be rushed to the hospital. There's like no functioning left. There's no defense left. And they rather collapse in on themselves in a very dangerous way, and especially in BPD where then the unaliving potential is exponentially through the roof. So they need immediate intervention. But Vaknin was actually saying that when they're triggered, and if they cheat and monkey branch on you, that's decompensation, because their defenses are all of a sudden all gone, which is not true, because the fact that they go monkey branch and the fact that they go cheat has a lot to do with them being motivated by the unconscious repetition compulsion cycles in BPD, wherein their defenses are still working. They go to cheat on someone, they go to cheat on you, and they might not even be thinking about you, but they do this so that they can find somebody else to feel like they're going to get their needs through and identity through if for some reason you're not feeling the bill at the moment. But it's not the same as narcissistic personality disorder. So anyway, I'm of the mind that I need never do another video like this, for sure. I'm just trying to think what else. Vaknin said so much in it was ridiculous. It was like, was that the female borderline speaking when they would have no conscious awareness of what he was talking about? Or was that him trying to describe what borderline personality disorder itself would say? It was that ridiculous. It was inane. People soaking it up. Even people with BPD over there going, yeah, I have BPD and this explains a lot. I'm like, this is so dangerous. Anyway, whenever you hear a YouTuber, especially, I mean, you might believe all of Vaknin's credentials and stuff. I've been online 2 months short of him, almost 28 years. I've watched his Dog and Pony show. He's this, he's that, he's the other. I don't know what to believe or not anymore. But he's not, you can't believe a malignant narcissist psychopath who's always self-aggrandizing and projecting like crazy in his videos on BPD. Oh, that the borderline is doing this just like a narcissist and the woman should doing that. Because, I really believe that in his, limited, I know he's real smart and all that, but people can misuse that. So in his limited, lack of EQ, and in his limited, narrow focus on these things in the sense that he doesn't understand, believe me, doesn't get where he's projecting and where he's not. And how he's done in that video that he did today, December 24, 2022. How does borderline see you? Bracket, intimate partner, end bracket. He explains some of the theory, but then I don't know what he does. Does he mix it up? Does he screw it up on purpose? He confabulates and conflates it. He conflates it. And then it's getting less and less accurate. You know, it'd be like if I don't even know. If I said, well, what Backman said in that video too about people with codependency, that you're narcissistic. And then other channels repeat that. No, people with codependency, unless you have other issues. I've had clients that have NPD traits, or it turns out they have narcissistic personality disorder and they're codependent. But that's not too many of my clients, right? And the point is, unless somebody really does have those traits or could be diagnosed as a narcissist, people with codependency are not narcissists. But he keeps doing that too. And I guess you guys love to eat it up, or lots of people love to eat it up. And that's really none of my business. So there's a lot more I could say about that video. I could do a dissertation on the erroneous nature of that flawed logic, confabulating and conflating and putting things in together that don't belong together, that make the message even more erroneous and incorrect. And then where he starts off with his flawed, that the borderline women is all woman, he says it like it's a singularity, they're all the same. The borderline woman, they're all the same, and it's all like this for them, but the men are more narcissistic, because, it's not true. But what Vaknin is doing in his rabid misogyny, as a narcissist, let me be clear, I don't think, every man's a misogynist. No, I'm here to work with men. I understand what's happening for men out there with cluster B women, but not what Vaknin's talking about. So he's saying that, what was it now on that point? I don't even want to think about it, let alone remember it, because I don't usually watch his videos, because, they're really... the way he starts off with denoting the borderline woman as if they're all the same. Reductionist, not intelligent, by the way, simplistic, and begins a flawed argument, begins a flawed presentation in a video, right there. And then claiming that men are more narcissistic with BPD, or they should really be diagnosed as narcissists. That's his misogynistic view being projected out, because he values men, no one above himself, but he values men way more than he values women as a misogynist, he is a misogynist, as a malignant narcissist psychopath. So, and that's fine, it doesn't bother me, because female malignant narcissists, or narcissists they have misandry, and they will. But so Vaknin claims in that video, get how far afield from the topic it was, like I am here, because on purpose, but not with throwing in all this stuff to say, this is how the borderline sees you and this is why, like what he tried to do. But what was I going to say now? He takes some facts and then he just jumbles them all up, puts them in a blender. Flawed logic is everywhere then. And then just... So you have the borderline in the avoidant phase, and you have the borderline... you have the borderline first in the approach phase, and the borderline secondarily in the avoidant phase, in the structure of his video, with all the other flawed nonsense in it. And the confabulating of things. I don't mean like he could be lying about a bit of it, but he's putting too many things together that don't belong together, that have flawed logic to begin with. All because he can't see women, because he hates women. What I was going to say was, then he said all borderline women hate men. They're misandric. This is not true at all. Some may be, but not all, and not the way that narcissistic women have misandry or are misandric. That is, the hatred of men. So, anyway, how does the borderline see you? They don't. They don't see you. They don't hear you. They don't have a self from which to trust or love, or take in your love or give love or attach to you. So you are object other parent representation, experienced by them as object other parent representation. What does that really mean? I've got hundreds of videos where I mention this and talk about this. It just means that they're experiencing you as either a parent never had in the idealization phase, and then they're not vacillating between idealization and devaluation the way that most people describe, because after the initial idealization honeymoon phase, very rarely, if ever, and very, very not for long, do they get back. They don't really get back to re-idealization. So often what they're vacillating between is no longer idealization, it's base mood. Base mood can still put a borderline in approach. Okay? Base mood, they want to call you. Base mood, they want to talk to you. If you're still in a relationship, base mood, now they're interested in relating a little bit or trying. And then until they get triggered and they split you to devaluation, and now base mood or devaluation, you are object other parent representation to them. They don't know this consciously. And so it's pretty simple compared to what he went around in inane circles of, throwing like everything. It would be like somebody trying to cook a meal by throwing in a ton of ingredients that don't belong in it. It's not going to taste very good at the end. So they don't see you, they don't hear you, and this is why you feel so invisible to them, because you are. You're there giving, over giving, caring, loving, trying to walk on the eggshells, and you're on the roller coaster of their emotions. And all of this stuff that you think is love as a codependent, well, you're there to try to help and rescue and fix them. But all of that is your externalized that repetition compulsion cycles of your codependency, because you're trying to fix them so you can feel emotionally safe. Not consciously. It's like people with BPD are looking to you for identity, seeking identity through you. And then back and said it's almost as if the borderline has no self or blah, blah, blah. When the borderline has no self. What do you mean it's almost as if? So anyway, I think I've said many, many a time how it is they see you. They don't see you. They don't hear you. They're not experiencing you. And that doesn't always mean they're in dissociation. And as for BPD amnesia as a fugue or dissociation state, not that, well, with psych meds it might be worse now, but it's not that common. And why does a borderline sometimes not remember something the way that it happened or exactly the way that it happened? They might know a lot more about it than they're going to talk to you about, because they're defending themselves. And they're not going to be held accountable, and they don't even understand that part consciously. But the thing is, when they're flooded with emotion, just think about a time when you're flooded with emotion, maybe about your BPDX, and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to cope with that. You're not going to be thinking so logically or so straight at that moment. And you may have a time of being flooded with emotion, because this is a human thing, not just a borderline thing, but it's what we do with it, right? You get flooded with emotion, you're really upset, somebody you love just died, and you get a phone call, and you are just bereft, and you are super emotional, which is healthy to be in that circumstance. You're not going to be thinking too straight. So that's what accounts for a lot of people with BPD when they're triggered to dysregulated emotion, and the emotion that they have, especially the quiet borderline, you might not see it, you might not understand it, but it is volcanic within them, whether they let it out that way at some point or not. And I'm not excusing their behavior, the way they treat people. They are relational nightmares. Unfortunately, people with BPD that are not treated have not gone to almost, people with BPD can heal and recover, and I know that. And so I was just going to say, I sit here poised to want to share, to help people really understand. But I think I'll save it for my clients. And I'm going to have some paid products coming, and I'll save it for there. And if you want to buy it and hear it, great. But I'm no longer going to share what I know from the inside out of my experience as being labeled with BPD, but the childhood adverse experience I had, and what I went through in 15 years of therapy to heal and recover from. I have the inside scoop on this. And maybe that's what Backman has about being a malignant narcissist psychopath, to the degree to which he can intellectually describe that, because he has no EQ. But I'm a person who came back from that kind of childhood, went through all this therapy, and have an education as well, and I know the differences, and I can explain it, and I will for my clients, but I'm not going on this channel anymore. It's not appreciated, I don't feel. And in another video I did recently, and I mean, it doesn't matter if you appreciate it, really. It's like, if you're not even going to watch it, what am I going to break that boundary for, right? To try to help others through my own internal understanding of what I went through many, many, decades ago in my life now. And I can explain it probably in a tad unique way, because I know some of it, I didn't have all the traits of BPD. Some of it I know inside out to the core. not only what it felt like, what it was, how I experienced it, which doesn't mean everybody with BPD would experience it the way that I did, like dissociation, depersonalization, derealization. And I experienced that with no decompensation. And let me just say, I don't know if I finished that. When I was experiencing that in, not my first psych class, but one of them, and I got triggered by something that I would get triggered a lot in university because obviously I had emotional work to do and I was in therapy at the same time. And I would catch it and I would know and I would, it's like, I remember a professor giving a certain lecture, I won't bore you with the details. And when I looked at it, I went, ugh. And I just felt so much pain inside. And I didn't do anything with that. I didn't interrupt the class or whatever. But here's the thing, when I was having a depersonalization, derealization experience, that I didn't really know what it was at that point in a class when I was about 19. It didn't happen to me all that many times, but it would happen in therapy more because you're getting to things and it's you're trying to protect, but you're trying to get to the understanding and awareness of something. And when that happened, it was like I sat there and I felt hot flashes. I felt like I was experiencing the class, pardon me, in the professor's voice as if like I was in a goldfish bowl or something. And the professor's voice would almost go from like me hearing like I'm speaking to you right now to wah, wah, wah. Sort of the Charlie Brown. Not totally, but some combination of the two to where I wouldn't be taking in anything the professor was saying at that point. And one time when this happened to me in a class that I remember clearly, what did I do with that? I didn't decompensate. I didn't feel like I had no defenses left. I wasn't aware of that at the time. And it wasn't the case. And I still knew what day it was. So I'm experiencing depersonalization and derealization in an emotional way about something that is a reliving of something from my past, which I wasn't sure what it was at the time. But I knew what time it was in that here and now with depersonalization and derealization. I knew what class I was in. I knew what day it was. I knew where I was. And I was also experiencing the dissociation and derealization. And it was distressing. I mean, I thought it was going to take me away. I thought it was going to annihilate me. It felt that way. But what I did, and I'd started to learn some coping mechanisms with this by this point already, but because I've been in therapy since I was 15. But I think, like, I just said to myself, okay, I think you've known this before. Deep breathe. And I was pretty panicked inside, but I just sat there and waited for it to pass. I didn't get up and yell. I wasn't decompensating. I didn't lose all my defenses. So that's all that he said that has to happen every time a borderline's triggered. And then the self-state of secondary psychopathy, which is not proven at all, which many clinicians will argue vehemently that it's not accurate, it's not true. And I'm on that side, okay? Because we don't have enough information. But it sounds good. It's very theatrical. It's very histrionic and hyperbolic, and it grabs you people's attention. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a subset of people with BPD, male and female, that have something else going on that seems to be much more severe than even the worst of BPD. But what I think should happen, and from all I've read of other studies that come to an opposite conclusion than what Backman is always espousing, which is only really ideology at this point, is not proven. I forgot my train of thought there. I just believe that there's an agenda with that. And studies I've read that they try to use to say that their secondary psychopathy and BPD are just weak-kneed, not replicated, not science, not to be taken seriously, but yet it's all over the place. So this is just making me think about what am I doing and what am I going to do going forward and where am I going to have my messaging. Podcasts are doing well. That's going to be one place. Not going to always flip them up to this channel anymore. Nobody's interested. So what's the point? It's right there for you. You know, people gave me feedback the other day and said, I want more on codependency. I want to understand this, want to understand that. And, you know, what was that? 20 people? And most of that was topic suggestions. Thank you very much for that, by the way. I appreciate it. not enough for me to go on. I don't even know how many people are actively engaging this channel anymore. Because, it has 31,100 and something subscribers. And there's been lots of new subscribers over the years. But there's that, all the people that used to watch my videos and interact, but I hope they moved on and healed. And so they're gone. And then people notoriously just don't ever unsubscribe. They just go away. So I've been thinking about a lot of different things, and I'll just say in this video that I think I've been thinking about, even I have another channel. I've been thinking about using it and doing some different things over there. And then, because the channel has 3,000, maybe 3,300 subscribers. And I was thinking, well, if I do something over there, then if I get 80 views and 2 comments, it'll be like, yeah, that fits, So, but I don't know how many people are actually engaging this channel. But here's the thing, think about what you're doing. If you do watch any of my videos, or you do gain anything from over 1,100 videos on this channel now, and it makes sense to you, and then you're off to listen to Backton, or you're off to listen to the other misinforming one, because he misinforms a lot on BPD. I don't know what he does. I think he does in other areas too, but I don't care. And I have a lot of I think pretty sustainable theories as to why that is. But the bottom line is, there are other people out there with smaller YouTube channels, mostly men, that are really misinforming people. There's not just one way to heal from BPD and NPD adverse experience. And the one thing can't just incorporate 4 steps. One of the main steps being meditation. Yeah, that's helpful and lovely. One of the other steps being Codependence Anonymous. Don't recommend it. Don't go there. Don't do it. You're not going to heal and recover through a dysfunctional, outdated, flawed, systemically impaired, everybody's telling you based on only their experience. No. People need to get into a healing and recovery process with an expert in this area. And nothing less, nothing short. Nothing short, nothing less. Anyway, so I've kind of commingled a couple of subjects in this video. But the borderline doesn't see you. The borderline doesn't hear you. The borderline doesn't experience you for you. You are invisible to them. They are trying to survive. So when they do a lot of that really crappy stuff and beyond that they do to you, it's their defense is actually working. It's not them being triggered to emotional dysregulation and or any dissociation, which isn't automatic with every trigger. It's not them then decompensating and losing all of their maladaptive but formidable defense mechanisms at all. And there was something else Backton said in that video that, what was it? I don't remember what he said, but it hinted at that people with BPD can't exist without you. Well, they already don't exist. They don't have a self. And they have a lost self. And so they have a fragmented off child ego state. And it's similar and a little more complicated to explain than that in BPD and NPD. But the bottom line is, so who are you relating to anyway? So what people really have to come to realize, because I believe more people than not, even if you don't feel this way yet, right? Because you're wherever you are in your experience with the borderline in your life, you're going to come to realize sooner or later that you need to get the heck out of this thing. And how do you break those unhealthy bonds when you're not even attending to what you need, or you're self-abandoning yourself so much for this other person? And there were some other things he said in that video that were really, I thought, not only really erroneous about codependency, but just really, I don't think that the malignant narcissist psychopath cares at all about how people really feel. I don't think that he can relate to how people feel. And especially when he starts talking about BPD or the people that have been on the other side of narcissistic, horrific experience from narcissists, doesn't have any understanding of how that feels for people. And I don't think he cares one way or the other. So anyway, I'm not here. It's not about, go watch him if you want, if that's your thing to do. But I will make this one request. And people have been doing it recently. Don't put his name on my channel. Thank you very much. I'm not interested in discussing any other YouTuber on this channel anymore. And like I said, the one that's just returned to his channel, I mean him no disrespect. We've had, he was like having a lot of issues with me or something. I've never been out to destroy his channel. I'm not a troll on his channel. I don't have sock puppet accounts. He's just a rabid misinformation type person. Gets some things right. Everybody identifies. He is excellent at making clickbait titles. He's a good, I would say, snake oil salesman. But then again, not to be too harsh on someone, he does what he does the way he does it, and it works for him. And I can't do anything like that. And so I keep being disadvantaged, I think, not me personally, but my information, because people can't find it. It's going to get worse because I live in Canada with Bill C-11. I did a video on that, and for all of you who do get anything out of my videos as you claim to, some of you have said, and I appreciate that. Well, you're not even going to be able to find me at all if you're not subscribed to this channel. So maybe you don't care. But if you care, you better get subscribed to this channel, hit the notification bell. And since I did that video about how to find me when you won't be able to because of how the algorithm is going to change based on Canadian tyrannical law, which is on the precipice of happening right now. Nobody signed up to my email letter. Just saying. This is not a woe is me, by the way. It's a me being really reevaluative of what I'm doing here and why does it even matter. And I think it does matter. And I think my frustration over time has been that I do believe, it's not a borderline thing, it's not a narcissistic thing. I just believe that my information deserves a lot more views than it gets. And it's not going to get those views. And it's probably going to get worse, not better. So I think I'm going to go largely more heavily into podcasting. I don't know what I'm going to do on this channel or not. That's just the honest truth. Continue or not, or a little bit of, a little bit of this and that here and there. And then the other thing is, I'm going to be doing a lot of, at ajmahar.com, in case you're interested. There's going to be a lot of paid products up there, information products. And I don't even want to be more specific than that right now, with a lot coming in mid-January. Because I think that's where I'm going to put my effort and working with clients. When people work with me in sessions, they get to pick my brain, they get the benefit of my experience, and they seem to want it. On this channel, I put out that message, and not a one of I don't know how many people watched that video, not a one of you, which is fine, said that you wanted to hear more. So you won't be, and it won't be free. And the bottom line is, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, I may as well just do a video and, I don't know, play it for myself later, but I already know the crap and I don't like listening to myself. Anyway, yeah, I'm frustrated here. I am frustrated. And I'm frustrated with watching people, but you're going to do whatever you want. So don't think that I have anything against you for this. No. But I'm frustrated watching people. They don't go from my channel to another channel that has efficacy for you in information that is accurate. No, people go off to the channels where it's like all over the map and it's like throwing all the ingredients into the soup. Like your toaster, your knives, your forks, along with your potatoes, your carrots, your spices, your celery, throwing everything into the flipping soup pot. And then people think, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. And it's because you're still self-abandoning. And it's because, as formidable as codependency is, you're still focusing too much on the cluster bees, and you're still wanting to hear the worst things in the world that you can hear about them. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of people. And then I have to say this most uncomfortable thing. For the people, I'm giving leeway right now, I'm leaving it alone. But for the people that go to a certain small channel, with a YouTuber that's back with a book, congratulations to him, kudos, I don't want any problem with you if you see this. I'm just saying, if you're going to be on that channel, and you're going to be believing what's being said on that channel, some of which is accurate, a lot of which isn't, then you're not going to be welcome back on this channel. You can watch, but you'll find yourself kind of invisible in the comment section if I don't just turn them off altogether. So yeah, if you're hearing frustration, I am frustrated. It has nothing to do with you people. There's nothing personal between us. I just do the best I can. I'm not saying it's the best on earth, but it's certainly far from the clickbait lostness of what many people like a moth to a flame go to in this area, where you're going to be misinformed, but you like it apparently and it sounds good. And then you don't realize what what the impact of that really will be on you over time. And if you think I'm just blowing this out my ear or not liking a certain YouTuber or whatever, it's got nothing to do with that. It's not personal for me. YouTubers can do whatever they want on their channels, right? And so I just find that when people are misinforming, and are they doing it with any malintent or whatever? I think Backlund does. Do others? I don't have a clue. It's not for me to judge or say anyway. But to that end, I guess if I do continue to do videos here, and, sometimes 1,000 people will watch a video, 1,600, 2,000. I'm lucky if I get like 12 comments. So are you engaging this content? Does it really matter to you? And that's the kind of feedback I've been looking for, but I don't, 20 people might tell me something. And then I have some people that will tell me something that, makes me think, okay, well, I guess I'm reaching I know I'm reaching some people. And that's important. But people will say something very kind to me about this channel, and then I never see them comment again. I never see them even ask another question or share any of their experience, which is fine. But put yourself in my place for a minute. What would you do with it? Because that's a question I'm asking myself. I don't know what to do with it. And it's fine. I mean, there's way more, information all across the internet and channels. And not everybody agrees. And I'm certainly someone who doesn't agree with most of this stuff being floated around right now about self-states. And that may come to fruition, but it hasn't yet. But secondary psychopathy and BPD. Have you ever wondered why YouTubers in general, well, I mean, except for the ones helping people that have been hurt by narcissists, and then how far do they go? Have you ever wondered why it doesn't seem like the American Psychiatric Association is trying to pick apart narcissistic personality disorder and pathologize it ever more and undo all the work that was done from the 50s on, and especially the work of the late Dr. John Gunderson? I was very, very sad to hear he passed away. It was in 2019. I didn't know. What a magnificent clinician and pioneering clinician. And I will always be a person who is going to give you information based on many different theories and many different of the pioneering clinicians in this area, like Dr. John Gunderson and now the late Dr. John Gunderson. And another thing that's really heavy on my heart, and the late James F. Masterson, because these are the people that bring balance to the information, even when if they're doing professorships at university, when they open their own, like Dr. James F. Masterson created, I believe, and opened and is still going strong in New York somewhere in the state. I don't know about New York City or where. The Object Relations Institute. And, there's the works of so many other people too. And I've read all of their things. And maybe, but if I review it and I come back to you with this more sound information, and I don't mean you like singularly anybody, but what I've seen is, that can help many people, it does. But then many more people would rather go to the clickbait of the misinformation. And yet there's many people I know, because I've worked with them as clients, or I'm working with them as clients like recently or whatever. I don't want to say anything about clients I'm working with right now. But many people are really discerning out there. Many people aren't. So maybe just reflect on, where are you in the discernment when it comes to misinformation, clickbait titles, and such, to drag you in there for their purposes and to espouse whatever their agenda is. And there is a female, and I'm not going to name her, who's a professional, who does talk about BPD, NPD, and I like her work, except she's rather kind of like a very angry, bitter person, I think. That gets hard to listen to. But, and she does fuse BPD and NPD together too much. But what was I going to say about that? Yeah, people aren't flocking to her channel like they used to either. They're flocking to the clickbait misinformation, largely channels with male YouTubers. So do we look at that and say, for people that are a little less discerning, that you're still somehow, whether you're male or female, seeing that male with a strong, powerful presence as being somehow a little bit more authoritarian and worth listening to than an old fat broad like me, or than women in general? I've also looked around at some other channels lately. Interesting how their views have plummeted as well, as I struggle for views on this channel in many ways at times. And it's not the information. It's where everybody's prone to go to where you're going to be rewounded. But, you know, are you prioritizing hearing more awful as possible things about the borderline or the narcissist, than hearing it put to you in a way that can actually help you to start focusing on you, to start diminishing some of your pain? Anyway, I've gone on long enough here, and if nobody comments, that's fine, because whatever. And just know that I will be, perhaps, I'm not sure yet, I share with clients for sure, anything that I can possibly add to their understanding from my own insider perspective from decades ago in my life. I may be doing some things like that in paid information products, but I will not be doing it on this channel, and probably not doing it in the podcast either. And that's not sour grapes or anything. That's just, I'm going to do it in a way that if you really want it, which hasn't been expressed in the couple places I've asked prior, so I'm not asking you, I'm not asking you again, was something I really wanted to offer people that I believe would really help people. But if people don't want it or they're not ready for it, well, that's fine. So then, for those of you that are, and I'm thinking of making it so that if somebody's working with me as a client, so they're already paying me for that, that I'm going to find a way to sell some of the things that are going to be at ajmahari.com. I'm probably just going to offer side deals to my clients. Like I'll say, hey, are you, or you know, if you're interested in anything that I put up there, when there's going to be a lot more there, very in depth, that you're not going to hear anywhere else on YouTube, if I may say so myself, just real, keeping it real. You'll hear iterations of it, but you will not hear the insider. You will not. And so that sometimes helps my clients to let go of things and understand things in incredible ways. But the bottom line is, I'll be offering my clients discounts, because I will simply send them the products, which will all be digital. And I will only ask probably half price if that, because they're already paying me to work with me. I think that's only reasonable. But for everybody else out there, and I don't mean to be unkind or anything to the people that have been supporting this channel, it's just not really supported enough to really make it viable going forward as I see it right now. So I think I'm going to veer off probably into talking more about being the child and an adult child of borderlines and narcissists, probably on another channel. I'll link it to this channel. Maybe do another podcast. But other than that, most things, I might come back here and do more video. I just don't know. It seems like an uphill, not worth it proposition. Especially when you see that most people that watch me go to these disinformation sources, misinformation sources. I just don't understand that. And it's not, I'm saying, oh, just watch me, I'm good. No, it's nothing like that. But if you perceive it that way, that's up to you. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen on this channel. This channel already has a lot of content that can stand the test of time. But will I leave this channel up after I'm not on the planet anymore? The way I feel about it right now? No way. No way. So it's only going to be here for as long as I am. So I'm taking care of that. You know, I have to do that directive now. And right now, I mean, I thought I would leave it up, but I think not. I just think not. And that's not punishment, it's not revenge, it's not borderline, but you can think whatever you want. I am one frustrated individual trying to help people actually recover from these relationships and codependency. And I have lots of clients, and have had for 33 years, and maybe we'll have more, and this isn't a good video for them to hear. But because I'm passionate about my work with clients. And it's a different situation. And then some clients, more than others, ask me a lot of questions. And they'll say, hey, you know, if I can, and I'm always like, go for it. when you had BPD, or when I was labeled with it, when I was going through in therapy, which was primarily 4 traits strongly for sure. They'll say, when you were going through that, what was it like how did you come to know this, and what was that, and these are the things that make or break people's decisions. And when they're opening up to the realization that even when they still feel a certain way, they know in their heads that they need to get out of these situations. And I watch so many people on YouTube in particular running around, because your names are there, in the comments to see. And I just have a good memory for that. I'm not looking for anybody. I'm not judging anybody. But I see people that were on my channel 5 years ago. This is distressing to me a little bit. Not really personally, but I just found a channel. I was looking at somebody's channel. I just look in the comments. I'm just like, how many comments are they getting right now versus like what's going on? Because a lot of things are down. Views are down. The algorithms is changing. The algorithm is changing. And a lot of other channels have been affected as well as mine, right? People that used to get a lot more views than me getting way less views than me right now. And vice versa or whatever. So within, kind of channel sizes that, whatever. But I guess, so there's the algorithm thing, and there's where people are gravitating to. So yeah, I've gone to check out a few channels once in a while, and I just, I don't usually listen to their videos. I will just look at their comments. And then, much to my surprise, because I have a good memory for names that I've seen a lot of my channel commenting. Doesn't mean anything any more than that. And I saw 2 people on another channel. I don't even think it was specific. It wasn't about BPD. And they were saying whatever they were saying to the YouTuber. And all I did when seeing the comment, I was like, wow, him, her, interesting. And really, all I took away from that was kind of how sad it might be for those individuals. That 5 years or so, approximately, after leaving my channel and not wanting my content anymore, which is fine. A lot of people don't want to hear me at all. But 5 years later, they're on other channels. And like, what does that mean? It means they're not getting anywhere with their healing and recovery, or not far enough. Because, the goal really is on this channel, if people do watch it, and whoever else you watch, but if you give a little more weight to the message here that can help you more, and if I resonate with you and you want to work with me in sessions, I'm going to help you a lot more than if you continue to just watch videos all over the place, mine or other people's. Well, the thing about that is, like, don't hear me wrong. I mean, people do whatever they want to do. That's fine. I just don't know how it's serving people to be, not necessarily watching other channels. Of course, I'm not saying you should ever just watch me or just watch person ABC. But it's the vast differences. I wonder what's happening for people with that. And it's not my business. And I just observe it. And I don't judge it. And so, yeah, I don't know where I'm at with this, but I think I'm going to let it go for a while. I have a lot of other things to do. I have personal commitments in the next, several days. Taking a break from work, so I shouldn't be here. Because believe me, this has become work. So anyways, the video is more about what it shouldn't have been about than what it was about. So let me just reiterate again, because nobody's listening now. I know that. Or hardly anybody. That the borderline does not see you, does not hear you for you. You become invisible. You have your codependent ingrained repetition compulsion cycles of trying to reach them and pursue them and pursue them and pursue them and get hurt by them, because this is what you learned in childhood was the way. You need to accomplish, achieve, fix, please someone, or maybe unconsciously you're not aware that people with codependency feel like they're not worth loving. They feel like they're because it's what you learned in childhood. So if you keep going and listening to the misinformation, wherever that might be, think about why. And check in with yourself today about your discernment. And you might take that, you might think, what is she talking about? Who does she think she is? Well, I'm not trying to sound like I'm above you at all. Although there's some things I probably know that you don't know because you're not recovered and I am. That's just base reality. But the bottom line is, yeah, a lot of you are so intelligent. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. But are you really applying your intelligence to the discernment that will help you emotionally versus what is a lack of discernment and a going everywhere to all this misinformation and stuff? It might satiate your emotional needs right now, but it's not about healing and recovery. Anyways, I've gone on too long here. So it is what it is. And I said what I said. And there you go.